So this is called the Plaza area outside in downtown Santa Fe. And here next to me, as we're walking up, this is the very famous Loretto Chapel, the miraculous staircase. This is a morning at the Loretto Hotel in the heart of Santa Fe, New Mexico. On the back of the, next to and connected to the Loretto Chapel. And I'm gonna make this a continuous shot that goes from the hotel lobby into the chapel, hopefully. But these are images on the walls of the hotel of the Loretto Chapel, which is very famous for its staircase. So right over here last night, this is the ending of a trip that has been pretty, the Lord led us through a lot of things on this trip. This is a model of the Loretto staircase. The Loretto staircase was built in the late 1800s.
Okay, so tell me about the staircase.
Okay, so it was completed, like I mentioned, without a staircase going up to the choir loft. Back then that was okay because most choirs were made up of men, so they could use ladders, but this was a Catholic girls' school, so they had to have a staircase. So the sisters tried to get local carpenters to come in and build it for them, and they kept running into problems just because of how small it was in there. No one would take on the job. So the sisters did a 9-day novena to St. Joseph for someone to come and build the staircase for them. And on the 9th and final day, a man appeared and offered to build it. So he did it mostly in private. It took him about 6 months, and then he vanished without payment. Okay, so what makes our staircase so miraculous is that it has no center support. Like most spiral staircases, have a pole in the center or they're built into a wall. This one does not. It also doesn't have any hardware. There's no nails, there's no glue, there's no screws, nothing like that. And also, the type of wood that he used doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. So those are the mysteries that are surrounding our little staircase there. Yeah.
So did he provide his own wood?
Yes. Yes, he brought the wood, and we don't know how he got it here, where he got it from. We've had it analyzed before, and it is a type of spruce, but that type of spruce just doesn't exist. The one that it's closest related to thrives in Alaska. So, say that tree grew once upon a time. We don't know how this elderly man got from Alaska to here on a donkey in that time, that day and age and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And a mysterious man came on a donkey, and he said it would take a number of months to do a staircase for them. This was an answer to their prayers. The man, when they were invited back in, had completed this unusual spiral staircase that has no center column. Here's what a model of the staircase looks like. It tests to be no known species or specimen of wood known today. There'll be more details on that as we talk. The staircase has 33 steps that goes to the top. When they went to go pay the man, this strange man that came with this wood, it has no nails, by the way, no nails. So whoever constructed this didn't want to use nails. This interesting carpenter that showed up as an answer to their prayers and made a 33-step spiraling staircase upwards in their little chapel in the heart of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Did not use nails, and when they went to go find him, they couldn't find him in an effort to pay the man. Been sitting here at the table working on editing some videos, some amazing interviews that we have done on this trip. I believe the Lord led this trip. This is one of the only rooms, as the man downstairs said, that has view of the chapel. I'm going to take out the little window balcony here. So, and this behind me, so here's the back of this hotel, the Loretto Hotel, and we'll be going through the lobby and around this maze of hallways. This is the Loretto Chapel, which is right next to me and right next to this hotel room that I'm at. I'll walk you just around on the top of this terrace that I'm on, that I kind of came out the window. But this was again the closest room that you could get to. There might be a room over there that might work, but this is the Loretto Chapel, the very famous miracle Loretto Chapel. And here is the window to the room. We'll climb back inside of the room, and here's where I've been doing my editing. So we have a lot to upload for you. that I believe the Lord led this trip. So this trip started out, let me just tell you about that. This trip started out with Robert Agee calling me and saying there was a man flying in from South Africa that had a word from the Lord about America. But the Lord had shown him not to give the word until Donald Trump was elected as the 47th. There's a lot of sevens in this story, and there's a lot of South Africa in this story. But until Donald Trump was elected as the 47th president. So, hey ladies, how are you? So we went over to Dallas because a part of his prophecy was about John F. Kennedy holding a bowl of blood before the Lord and saying, "When will you avenge me?" There's a lot about the intelligence agencies in these prophecies, and I think some of it's good and some of it's not so great. We'd like to focus on uplifting things. And God in a nutshell, there's an awful lot of them in this. So, but he also saw in the vision, he saw these 200 men also holding bowls of blood. And these were men from the very famous Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. So we went down to the Alamo where this man gave this prophetic word. Full versions of that word will be available and posted where you can just get to them. So, and this is great that it doesn't have any construction today. Would you hold that? Okay. Thank you. Hello, good morning. How are ya?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad.
Just the two of you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It'll be $10.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys
Thank
are
you.
very wise.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so this in this way, as we walk over here, this is that very famous staircase that goes up, and let me turn your light on there, okay? So this staircase was built in the late 1800s, and I'll go through the story of it a little bit again. You can see the wood is all carved out. This is no known species of wood. So the Loretto nuns or the Loretto sisters had prayed for someone the chapel was completed, but it only had a ladder that went way up to this. You can see how high up that second story would be. And so they apparently had a ladder that would go up there, but they were praying for a period of, I think it was 9 days, for someone to come and help them put in a staircase. And a man showed up on a donkey, and he said that it would take a few months, and he asked them to leave, and then finally he invited them back in, and this was the staircase that was completed. The staircase had no railing on it. And I'd like you to notice that it has no centerpiece to support it, so this bedazzles modern engineers as to how this staircase is standing. And it goes up in a spiral shape, no center support, so this is somehow gravity done. It tests for no species of wood, and also the staircase has no nails in it. So whoever built this staircase wanted to do it, wasn't fond of nails, I suppose, but did not want nails or did not use nails in the construction of the staircase. This staircase has exactly and precisely 33 steps, same number of years that Jesus lived before he was crucified on the cross. That's how many steps that this staircase has, spiraling up to the very top is what you're looking at here. It's created from. The staircase has no nails and it has no center support, which bedazzles modern engineers of how the staircase was put together. But more bedazzling than all of that is the fact that this was done in the late 1800s by a man on a donkey providing his own wood, who vanished after the fact asking for no payment for the staircase. Now this strange, enigmatic carpenter that arrived on behalf of the prayers of the nuns, the Loretto nuns, he completed this particular staircase, which has exactly and precisely, this right here with this mesmerizing wood that tests to be no known wood known to man, has exactly and precisely 33 steps going up it with no nails. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell, and I've got some strange artifacts on this table beside me, and I'd like to walk you through what just a couple of them are. These are all artifacts that go all the way back to the very beginning of written history. For example, this one right here, this is called the Eridu Genesis. Now it's called that because most all of the artifacts, in fact all the artifacts, these are all recreations by the way, that are behind me, but all of these artifacts are going to cover the global flood. In fact, they're so close to the global flood that you can almost feel the water from the flood as you read the text. The Eridu Genesis comes from Eridu, which is where I believe, which is where most probably the Tower of Babel was. There was an enormous ziggurat, or an enormous tower at Eridu, somehow shaken to its base, which is where this text comes from. Now, speaking of the Eridu Genesis, these little stones here, these are called Enmerkar and the Lord of Arata. Now, Enmerkar is a king listed on the Sumerian kings list. I have two versions of the Sumerian kings list behind me. This is one version right here. This was actually done by a lady that lives in Turkey, I believe, and she went through and she did each little cuneiform letter. This is a less well done Sumerian kings list. The Sumerian kings list is covering a time period prior to the global flood and kings that ruled, and then it's trying to cover for you these empires. What its main focus on are these empires that took rise out there like Eridu directly following the flood. One of these kings that came after the flood was Enmerkar. Now, just underneath or after Enmerkar, you're going to find several kings, and one of them is going to be Gilgamesh. Here again, you're covering the global flood. The Vav came up behind me as I was talking about Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is actually going to tell you about his journey to go see Utnapishtim, who he plans to get in a fight with, because from his lineage or his family on these stones, he believes that he should be angry at Noah because Nimrod is angry at Noah. This document right here, this is called the Utu tablet. Utu was the first sun god of earth. So you may wonder when you look at the Egyptians or the god Ra, where is it that they're getting this worship of the sun or the sun god? Well, that's going to go all the way back to this character right here, who's above this water imagery here. These were found in the treasuries of kings. Basically, kings are wanting to state, we're allowed to write all of these rules, all these laws, all these festivals, because we come from this set of people up here. Utu, I can make a strong case for you, is probably Ham. And in fact, you'll notice there are three figures on this side over here. One of them is getting the blessing and becoming, or at least alleging he's getting the blessing and becoming the sun god to be worshipped. This would come through the lineage of Ham. In fact, all of these documents, here's where I'm going with this, is that years ago when I had set out to do materials like these here, pre-flood, this is a soft cover version of it, that just walks you through all of these color pages of aspects of the pre-flood world and a lot of these different ancient texts and documents. What I wanted to do was a Genesis series that was unlike any other that had ever existed, or at least close. What I wanted to do is take the biblical texts and correlate them with all of what most would consider the pagan text. And the first thing that I began to find as I began to put those things together was that they're both telling the same story. Here was the key fundamental difference. In the pagan text, demons are good. In the biblical text, demons were bad. But they were telling essentially the same story that you were reading in your biblical text, which is why I had set in years ago. So this set behind me, and I know that DVDs are not are in some ways outdated in this time. What's interesting about all of these, and there are actually 8 of them in this current set. There are more than that in the entire Partners area, God in a Nutshell of films, including Joseph. And we're about to finish the Exodus. And I think that one will, just the research for that one, not the film itself, has probably taken close to a decade. But each one of these was designed to go in order and go in order of aspects, going from quite literally the Garden of Eden. And these are actually cool to have as an actual DVD, by the way. Who knows, maybe the internet at some point might go out. But just the design of them was actually to sit on a coffee table or on a desk stand or on a bookshelf. But each one of these goes through an aspect of that ancient biblical account. Here's the one for the Nakash, or the serpent that was in the garden. Here's the Nakash one. That's a fascinating one, by the way. And in fact, in these hours, my wife and I will sit down to watch a movie in the evening, and we'll realize that Hollywood has not made a movie worth watching in years. And I actually, the other night, part of the reason I'm making this presentation is I began going through some of these films that went through stage by stage by stage, these things from the ancient world. And not only what I discovered while putting this together was that the ancient past was far more interesting than it's given credit for. Even on this DVD cover, you're going through the Babylonian Ark tablet. Enki gives Achahasis, that would be Noah, instructions how to build the ark, and the animals go on 2 by 2. And by the way, the Enki, who is covered in Merkur and the Lord of Loretto. In Merkur is Nimrod. Eridu is most likely where, these are war-torn areas, you can't go visit there today, but it's most probably where the Tower of Babel was. There is a ziggurat there that was shaken to its base, as is covered by the in Merkur Lord of Loretto and in Merkur tablet. In Merkur is probably Nimrod. In means Lord. Mer is a reference to a sort of a magical element to the person you're talking about, or the Lord that you're talking about. Mer has a throwback to where you get the word mermaid. Also, you're going to find this with Vishnu, or the god Dagon, this fish imagery, which is knowledge that's coming from the other side of the flood. And of course, the word Kar at the end of it is a reference to hunter, as Nimrod was called a mighty hunter before the Lord. It uses the word Kar. Following Nimrod, you're going to find Gilgamesh, but in these letters, he's actually writing back and forth to a Lord of Loretto, which is most likely Noah, because Loretto is a reference to those that live up in the Urartu or the Ararat Mountains, what we would today call the Ararat Mountains, where Noah lived, where actually Abraham was sent back to when Nimrod tried to kill Abraham several times. And there's so many things that people don't know. And through each one of these, we took a journey through these elements of the ancient world, using all of the pagan text and matching up with the biblical story. Here's the one, Signs. You can find that one or most of that one on YouTube. People really enjoy it, just to give you an example of what these are like. And these were actually my favorite. This is the Vav. That's the symbol of a Vav right there on the cover of that film. And on the inside, the Vav. The Vav is the number 6 in Hebrew. That's an important language, possibly the original tongue of earth. The Vav right there is the number 6. It's the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, also having a numeric value of 6. And here's the Vav part 2. And you're going through in these Vavs. The reason there'll be 3 Vavs, Vav is a symbol for a nail. So Jesus had a nail in each hand, one in each hand, one in each wrist, and one in the feet. That makes 3 Vavs, 3 6s, the number of man. When you're saying doctrines of devils are really synonymous with doctrines of men. 3 Vavs, 3 6s. Here's the second part to the Vav. These in their completion, and both of these in their versions that are at godinanutshell.com in that partner section, I think both of them are roughly 3 hours long. And that's because I couldn't shorten them down anymore. There was just so much in there to express to you. Let me go through just a couple of more things that are on these tables. So since the beginning of God in a Nutshell, one of the things that we've studied is, well, the ancient past, just like I'm going through with you now. This right here is called a Neanderthal skull. Many in this modern age and in your sciences, there's a lot that needs to change in your sciences, will claim that skulls like this one that are in my hand, that these are evolving primates. I'd like you to take a look at the teeth on this skull right here, amongst a variety of other features. In fact, they used to take modeling clay and make skulls look like monkey people. They use the word primate because in your old science texts that would promote evolution, they used to use the word monkeys, or more specifically orangutans. They had to stop doing that because you found giant orangutans, just like you find lots of creatures in the ancient world, creatures that couldn't even exist or live today. Because you require a completely different atmosphere, a completely different ecological system for these creatures to live. Like a bronchiosaurus, a brachiosaurus. It's got nostrils the size of a horse. If the thing were to appear before you today, it would gasp for breath, it would fall down on the ground, and it would die. It can't even live today. Here's a modern human skull. Ancient skull, like this. Look at those teeth right there. You're finding in every ancient text these long lifespans. You're finding in your fossil record things that are declining over time. You have more creatures in the past than you have today, and the creatures that you have today, most of them, like this human skull, look at the teeth on those. There they are on the screen. Look how rinky-dink those are. How many times have you gone to the dentist? Does this ancient skull right here look like it needs to go to the dentist very often? Look, those are like bullets in the teeth in its mouth. This is a heavy-duty, no-nonsense human skull. Also, the maturity times. A person that was the age of 40 might look 20. These are established sciences. Modern human skull, ancient human skull. And also in the ancient past, you're finding around temples, in all of these texts, they're talking about things that can step in through from some other realm, some other dimension. There's a lot of terminologies for these. In the Bible, we've sort of oversimplified by saying the word angel and demon, good guy, bad guy. The ancient texts see this as more particularly the pagan texts, a whole array of things that they were worshiping at that time, which are covered on all of your texts. They will take and worship demons as their gods. These skulls, like this one here, are found around ancient temple sites, many of them. They do have differences between, and this one here, I used to have a nicer looking one, but I gave it to LT of Ann. We know the Lord does all things. I gave it to him. I never was able to, the guy that would make them but he would make them, he would actually use the molding. This one here is made from a molding of an actual skull found in South America. And you also find these in Iran. You find these around these ancient temple sites. And many of the people don't know about, which are subjects that we go through in all these films while Hollywood is making horrible movies. I'm inviting you to come over to godinanutshell.com and take a journey with me through all of these materials. I think that you will very much enjoy the journey and the ride. I want to give you a taste of that today. And I've commonly stated, and look there behind me, you've got the eye in there and you've got the eye in there. There were some of the ancient temples at the time of Nimrod, we call them today eye temples because they made all of these little figurines that just were covered with little eyes. Where do you think you get that symbolism for your occult worship houses of this modern age that are behind the scenes? A lot of those answers are right in front of you, and I commonly state over these films, if it's not right, it's close. I mean, I wasn't there. But you're going to easily find, and by the way, in the parts where you look at and you say, man, I think Trey's really off on this or that, well, that's great news. Maybe the Lord handed that into your hands. I want you to say that, to look at these things and to say, wow, I think I know what belongs right there, because that's how I believe that the Lord works. But of all these materials, I've commonly stated over them that they're easy enough for a third grader and intellectually exciting enough or satisfying enough for any PhD. So I invite you to come over at God in a Nutshell. We will go through all of these things, and not in a kooky way. I think you're going to find a lot of intellectual satisfaction, even in parts of the films that you may disagree with. That's part of the absolute fun of it. And each one of these, I promise you, you'll probably agree with this, that each and every single one of these films and these sets that have been put together, which, you know, you might even really enjoy having actual physical copies of the books, which are full color, and you can walk through them page by page. They're very easy to follow along with the films. But I think you're going to find a perspective of ancient history that is far more intellectually satisfying than that's what I found in the course of making all of this stuff, was that I felt far more satisfied with the past of humanity and with the future of humanity by watching these things. Even if there's portions of it that you disagree with, I think you'll come away from it with that, and probably with ideas of your own that might even be far beyond what mine ever were. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell, and I wanted to take this time to invite you to come over to godinanutshell.com. These films, currently most of them, they took a lot of work each one to make, are available for partners. You can cancel at any time, but I think that you will enjoy the films. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. God bless every last one of you and your families on the other side of the screen.